Well, guys, hi, Brent Abel, WebTennis.com. Hope you're having a spectacular day so far, wherever you are. And what I want to talk today to you about is this thing called mental toughness, this whole concept that, you know, if you're going to get through tough matches, close matches, you know, same skill level opponent, whether it's singles or doubles, is you got to be mentally tough, right? You can't show emotion, you can't do this, you can't do that. You know, you got to be mentally tough. And for me, it never worked. I was okay maybe showing no outwardly emotion for a while, but internally, I was going berserk. Outside, I might have looked mentally tough, but inside, I was kind of a mental midget just waiting to blow up, explode, and that's eventually what happened. Rackets might go over here and rackets might go over there eventually because I just couldn't hold it in anymore. So I've got 3 reasons why if you're trying to be mentally tough, it's not working for you, and some suggestions of what you might try that's helped me, and what you could do instead. So here comes reason number 1. So reason number 1 to be mentally tough is I was told, and maybe you've been told the same thing, at the end of a point, you know what, you got to hold it in. You can't show any emotion. In fact, don't feel any emotion. Just pretty much go blank, do nothing. And so if you've just hit the greatest shot of your life, do nothing, feel nothing. If you've just chunked the easiest, fattest sitter at 5-all in the 3rd set so you could break serve, do nothing, don't feel anything, don't show any outward emotion. And for me, what would happen is, I said before, it would all build up, and I would just kind of go crazy. And so I was trying to spend 80% of the match, right? 80% of the match is spent between points, right? Roughly 20% is all that we're playing. And so 80% of the time, obviously a huge majority, I'm trying to do nothing. I'm trying to feel nothing. And that did not work for me. And in fact, what would happen is when I would miss a shot, I would just ratchet up the intensity level of trying to feel nothing, and eventually it would just all kind of explode. What I learned from a guy named Daniel Coyle in a fantastic book that he wrote called The Talent Code is, look, we're all going to make mistakes, whether it's in practice if we're trying to improve something, or if it's in a match when we're, you know, trying to close it out. And what I learned from him is that when we make a mistake, especially a fat sitter where, you know, the odds are you want to go crazy, and instead you can turn that into a very positive moment. And the words that he taught me were, what I meant to do instead, and not in a sarcastic way, right? We've just chunked an easy volley to lose a point, but to really go to those words, especially when we miss something and make an unforced error, is to ask that question, or not to ask the question, but is to say what I meant to do instead, and then demonstrate it, kind of rehearse it. And whether you actually rehearse a forehand volley where you meant to maybe have a little more open racket face, or whatever it is that you're working on with that shot, is to just go ahead and do a dry run rehearsal so that your brain thinks this is what you meant to do instead, as opposed to sometimes, and maybe you do this, I used to do it all the time, I would sort of sarcastically go, you know, something stupid that would tell my brain, hey, you're an idiot, and this is what we're going to do the next time. So try to rehearse it rather than you know, not showing emotion and just holding on, kind of white knuckling and doing nothing. Again, don't show emotion, but you want to use that time to be proactive, which is going to be, well, what I meant to do instead, and then go ahead and rehearse either the technique, or maybe say to yourself, you know, if you just missed a ball a hair wide, well, what I meant to do instead was keep that ball in a whole lot less close to the line, more inside the court for the next time, so that you don't go into some kind of negative emotion. Now, the second reason that mental toughness, quote unquote mental toughness, might not be working for you is when the great Tom Stowe, who I had the opportunity to work with Tom Stowe about 18 months, for the last 18 months of his life. And I was so fortunate. Any kind of success I have ever had as a player or as a teacher, as a coach, he gets full credit for laying the foundation for me. But he used to tell me sometimes when I get frustrated and I'd be working with him, and he'd sort of look at me and kind of say, "God, you know, is it really this tough?" when I'd be screwing up. And before he would get to be able to say that, I'd get pissed. And he would come up to me and say, "You know what? You got to take it like a man." All right, got to take it like a man. So I'm being a baby boy. Okay, what does it mean to take it like a man? Well, it must be that is being mentally tough. And for me, it was another way of thinking, I can't do anything. I got to be so stoic. I can't show any emotion. I can't feel anything, right? Got to be like, you got to take it like a man, Brent. Never worked for me. It never ever worked. So if you're getting any kind of advice that's different from, similar to, you know what, you got to be mentally tough, you just got to take it like a man, you know, come on, just shut up and do nothing. That never ever worked for me when Mr. Stowe would say that. I would white knuckle it. My thought of taking it like a man would be like, okay, we're going through the turbulent air here, 35,000 feet, and all of a sudden the airplane feels like it's going to just fall apart because it's so turbulent up there, and I'm holding on to the armrest, just white knuckling, trying not to think, I'm going down, I'm going down. And so that to me was sort of that, well, just be cool, be stoic, take it like a man, and if the airplane goes down, don't scream like a baby boy. Well, that's what my matches would get to be like, take it like a man, and I never figured that out. The third reason that you might be thinking that you got to be mentally tough is what I used to do was I had no plan B. Man, I was so stubborn about a plan A, meaning that if it's not working, I got to be mentally tougher. If my plan A is not working, I got to be mentally tougher. I got to find a way to somehow force playing better rather than actually being smarter, and stop trying to be mentally tough that way. Be smarter and actually go to your plan B. And your plan B could be temporary. It could be in that match. All you need to do is to stay back on a few balls and rally the ball around, just go safe rally balls. You know, I used to be a pure serve and volley guy, a pure chip and charge guy, and eventually some guys I would play would have no problem with it. Or as I got older, Father Time would go, dude, the serve's not quite as big, you're not quite as fast getting in, so guess what? You're not as good as often serving and volleying, especially you can't do it 100% of the time. Well, for a while I would try to be mentally tough and just force that, trying to force a round peg into a square hole over and over and over again. It didn't work until I finally started working on plan B, which was nothing more than just staying back, playing a few ground strokes for a few minutes, and that might have changed something. And so my game has evolved into where I can do both now. Sorry if I'm spitting on the camera here. If I can serve and volley, and I can mix in some stay back and look for a short ball and come in. The thing that has helped me the most has been when I read something that Jim Lohr published a long time ago. And that was, he had a very specific between points routine. And for me, the between points routine took away that white knuckle, do nothing, show no emotion, you got to be mentally tough, you got to take it like a man, and just kind of hold on for dear life. And what it did for me in the 80% of the match is it gave me something that I could tangibly do over and over and over again between points, and that was a 4-part routine. And what I want to do right now is I want to detail for you what I do that has helped me so much in really tough matches. And look, nothing is a guarantee, right? But if I am disciplined to doing this 4-part routine that I got from Jim Lohr originally, and I've kind of hybridized it to make it more my own. But it's a 4-part routine that when I'm disciplined to doing it, between every point, no matter how badly I just chunked that easy forehand volley winner at 5-0 in the third, if I will go to that 4-part routine, then typically what happens, and I'm just thinking as I'm talking about it, played the World Cup in Umag, Croatia, about 2 months ago. And I'm playing a guy, and I got a double match point. I won the first set, and I'm up 5-4 in the second, and I'm serving at 40-15. And the next thing you know is we play a long point. He ends up getting a short ball from me. He comes in, and I line up a pass, and I go up the line. It's as clean a forehand up the line that I've ever hit, but he has guessed it. That's where I'm going. He reaches out, makes a stab volley, and it dribbles over for a winner. Place goes crazy, all right? So I go, all right, fine. I go to my 4-part routine. And so now it's add in and match point and another point, similar type thing, long point. He ends up coming in, same forehand, but this time I decide to go cross court. I hit this thing as clean as I possibly can cross court. It's got a little dip at the end as it goes over the net. Well, he's gassed over there. He's reached out. He's almost diving for it, and somehow the thing dribbles over for a winner volley for him. It's deuce. I'm guaranteeing you this right now. In the past, I would have gone berserk. I would have just put the big spotlight on me and gone crazy. And, oh my God, blah, 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 blah. And it would have probably taken me out of the match. And yet what I did was just kind of give it a little smile, a little grin, and just go, man, this tennis thing is just so beautiful. It is amazing. And I went straight to the first part of my 4-part routine and ended up winning the next 2 points and won the match. So let me detail for you what that 4-part routine is that I do between each and every point. So the first thing I do is I have already predetermined on that day, on that match, what the hook to a song is going to be for me. Kind of a Van Morrison guy, but you know, maybe it's not a vocal. It could be an instrumental, but I've already decided what the hook. We know what the hook to a song is, right? And I will go to the hook to that song, and I will just either start singing it to myself or I'll start humming it to myself as the very first thing I do at the end of a point, no matter what just happened. If I just hit this unbelievable forehand up the line, passing shot, or on the other side, if I've just chunked something easy, I discipline myself to go to the hook to that song. And what that does for me is it does even keel my emotions, so that for that moment, I don't call it mental toughness, but for that moment, I'm actively not having any crazy emotion. Nothing huge in terms of a great shot I've just hit, or nothing low in terms of an easy chunker. And for me, the song, or the hook to a song, does that for me. And as I mentioned before, right at that first part as I go to the hook to the song, if there's a correction that I want to make, I'm going to tell myself, well, what I meant to do instead was, and I'll dry rehearse it, it's either a swing, or I will just tell myself what I meant to do instead was keep that thing in, rather than going for the line, keeping it a good 3 feet inside the line. That's the very first thing I do. The second thing I do is I take 3 or 4 very deep breaths from my abdomen, right? I don't want to be up here breathing. Even if the guy is just double faulted to me and I've expended 0 energy physically, there's still some stress mentally that I want to relieve. And one of the ways I do that, I go back to the song and then I take in 3 or 4 deep breaths. Whether or not the guy's double faulted to me, or whether or not I've just played, you know, a 15-shot rally, I'm going to do that every time, and I'm going to do it deep from my abs. The third thing I do is I consider, is there any specific strategy I want to deploy, I want to use to start this point? I don't think about, well, here's what I got to do to win the point, because that puts too much pressure on me, because I can't control 100% of what I'm going to get from this guy. But I might be able to control, certainly on a return of serve. Hey, he's been serving me a lot to the body, or he's been serving me out here wide, whatever it is. If I get that, then here's what I intend to do, just to start with a return. But I never think to myself, that's going to win the point, it's going to have some result. Certainly we can always do that with a serve, right? And we should be. You know, every time we stand up to the service line, we ought to have some very clear intention as to where we're going to play that serve. And again, it's about, how am I going to start the point? You don't want to be thinking, how are you going to win the point? And then the fourth thing I do every time is I give myself a little self-pump, right? A self-pump is some words of encouragement like, all right, here we go, here we go. It's not anything like, God, you got to do this, you got to do that. It's just a very positive self-pump about, here we go, and I don't do anything more than that. Some people said, oh, they like to say, you know, see the ball or something. That could be a cue, that could be a reminder, that's fine. But that's the 4-part routine, and this sounds so easy. It sounds like a light switch, right? You could go out there, just switch this thing on and make it happen. I tried that when I first got this thing from Jim Lohr. It didn't work. And in fact, you can't cherry pick when you do this. Like in the beginning of a match, you know, where the stress is maybe a little bit less. I got to start. I got to start right from there. In fact, I got to start singing that song in the warm-up, so that I'm really comfortable with that. And at the same time, the song is kind of the foundation, is the undercurrent. But I'm observing. If this is a brand new opponent that I've never played against before, I'm kind of going to school and seeing what might be some possibilities as a strategy. But the other thing for me is I've got to practice this 4-part routine. And it's not like riding a bike for me, right? So if I haven't played a match in a while, if I haven't played a tournament, whether it's a league match or whether it's a tournament match, I've got to practice this thing a few days before that league match, or a few days before the start of that tournament match, just so it feels comfortable, so it feels authentic, it feels real. And believe me, in the beginning when you try this, it's going to feel a little awkward. So my advice is that you practice this thing like crazy, not only when you go out and play practice sets or practice matches, but at home, right when you're off the court. You can easily visualize that you're in a point and you've just hit a shot in a point, and then you visualize, or you actually go through the 4-part routine. So guys, that's it. If you're trying to hold on for dear life, if you're trying to white knuckle, trying to be mentally tough, you know what? It's probably not going to work. It never ever worked for me, especially in close matches. What has worked for me is that 4-part routine, which keeps me active during 80% of the match, and yet it's kind of like a little bit of kind of a meditative thing where I'm doing the same thing over and over and over again. And what I've found is when I'm disciplined to it, when I do it, it kind of cleans the slate from the last point in terms of not having any kind of, you know, super high emotions or super low emotions, but it also helps me get away from any kind of expectations of what a high emotion or low emotion is kind of telling my brain, this is what to expect for the next point. So if you got something from this video, a couple things I'd love for you to do. Number one, down below in the comment section, I'd love for you to give me your feedback or any questions that you might have. I always love to read and respond to your comments and or your questions. The second thing is, there go the glasses. The second thing is, if you're watching this on YouTube, is please hit the subscribe button so that you get notified right away whenever I publish new content on YouTube. And yes, it does give me some extra love in terms of the YouTube search. I would appreciate that. The other thing is if there's a like button or a share button, man, that would be awesome. I would really, really appreciate that. So guys, that's it. I hope you're having a great day. Hope this resonated with you. And as always, come on now. You got to get out there. Got to get out there today and help someone else. Have an amazing day.